I'm Instructor Jason, one of the instructors at Krav Maga Self-Defense. So today, Monday, the 5th of August, 2024, ASIO, the Australian Security Intelligence Organization, raised the National Terrorism Threat Level to probable. So I've taken all this from the website www.nationalsecurity.gov.au, and I'll be quoting a lot of stuff from the website, pretty much verbatim. So the National Terrorism Threat Level is a warning tool to provide government and the public an indication of what ASIO is seeing and anticipates in the near future. The security environment will continue to change in response to issues and events that arise both in Australia and overseas. So there's this general national terrorism threat level, and ASIO uses that to indicate or communicate to the government and the public, really, um, what the status is, where we are, how concerned or prepared we should be. Now, there are different levels, so they're usually listed the other way around, from high to low on the website. If you look at the website, but let's go with low to high. So it starts with not expected, then possible, then probable, then expected, and of course, the highest level of threat would be certain. So the security environment stated in the National Security website, I'll read entries about it. We'll pull directly from the website, just more like keynotes for you guys to understand why probable. Why is it a probable at the moment, or raised to probable? So ASIO is observing the emergence of domestic actors increasingly driven to action by socio-political issues intersecting with personal grievances. This is an increase in extremism fueled by conspiracy theories and anti-authority ideologies. Some actors hold a blend of ideologies, including those that justify acts of violence to influence change. So they're seeing a lot more extremism mentalities, and usually they want to drive the message home or get more people on board. But the wrong thing about it is diverting to more violent, using violence as a form of a statement to drive their ideology, which makes it a bit dangerous. Social media is a key driver of volatility, acting as a gateway and platform for violent ideologies and global influences to promulgate at volume and scale. The continued adoption and proliferation of social media will amplify and enable extremist narratives to find new adherents. Younger people are particularly at risk. So compared to before, social media it's really the norm now. Not like before, it was such a new thing, such a just a niche demographic using it, but now everyone's using it, and this is a problem because it's more highways of communication. If they're expressing ideologies, extremist ideologies out there, it reaches more people, and because our young people are using social media a lot, very vulnerable, very reachable. Attacks in Australia are likely to be low cost, using readily available weapons and simple tactics. Basic weapons such as knives, vehicles, explosives, and firearms can maximize casualties when combined with simple tactics. So this falls back to what they call the lone wolf attacker, right? And I guess through the decades before, but I this is my point of view. Law enforcement agencies, counterterrorism agencies have been doing well because they're monitoring all the purchases of whatever components are needed to make, let's say, IEDs in the more sophisticated type of attack, that it's made it so difficult for would-be extremists to go down that path. They're detected right away, or even the airline security and all those similar things have tightened. So now they have to. There's that natural evolution and escalation, but it's a downgrade in how complicated in sophistication. But despite all of today's technologies, it's very hard to. I imagine it to be very hard for that lone wolf, radicalized lone wolf, who would just grab a kitchen knife and choose a target to be detected. So that's what ASIO thinks would be the likely approach by these radicals. The most likely location for a terrorist attack in Australia is a crowded place in a major city. Crowded places include shopping centers, transport hubs, or other easily accessible locations. How perpetrators identify targets to attack can be driven by the ideology or grievance of the attacker and may include symbolic locations such as government buildings, places of worship, or special events. So naturally, they if a radicalized extremist person wanted to use violence to drive home their message, they would want maximum casualties. They would want as big a statement as they want. And of course, what's the attractive target for this? Crowded places, because then you'll have that target rich environment and it's easy to jump from one target to the other. So it's still fresh and it's still fresh in our minds what happened with Bondi Junction. Very tragic. And that's an example. Shopping center, a lot of people in there, crowded. Although this is not related to any radicalism or extremism, it was more like a mental health sort of episode or mental health related sort of incident, as said in the news. It's still the similar act, a similar act. If you look at Wakely, where in the live stream, the bishop, I'm forgetting his name, forgive me, the bishop was attacked by this young person, and that was more, as the news said, that was based more on radicalized sort of thinking and mentality why he attacked that bishop. And down the track, you see the police do raids on different houses on the supposedly colleagues of this young person, and they had these messages saying, "I want to do this. I can't wait to do this." Something of the sort. So you have to dig up the news for a few months ago to see all that. But yeah, well, those seem to be ASIO reckons. Those are the likely target areas. And of course, that in that Wakely one, that was a church. So religiously, place of worship, right? A lot of people in there, place of worship. He went for a very symbolic person, which is that popular bishop. A terrorist attack is most likely to be conducted by an individual, known as a lone actor, or a small group. These types of attacks are difficult to detect and may occur with little to no warning. So, like as we said, those young people, they were a small group. One acted alone. Um, yeah, got in the church and did what he did. Um, so, yeah, that's basically what you can get from the website, from that ASIO website. So, what can I do for us? What do we do now? We're all training self-defense. This thing happens. This is what ASIO, the information ASIO says that justifies them raising the National Terrorism Threat Level. And don't get me wrong, I'm not preaching doom and gloom here. The sky's not falling, but we have to acknowledge that this has happened now. These are the premier intelligence people in our country. So we have to pay attention when they do something like this. And although we've had it was at the level of probable a few years back. Um, Luckily, nothing really happened. And then after a while, they dropped it to possible, and then now it's back to probable. They're they're probably doing a lot of work in the background, and they're seeing all these things happening and accumulating, and so the experts, deem it right to bring it up to probable. So, like I said, we have to pay attention to that. We don't have to be fully paranoid and paranoid about it, but this is at the very least a good exercise for us, self-defense practitioners, to acknowledge this and start thinking about our routine and our day-to-day activities. How do we adjust to this announcement, to this raised level? What can I do? So I've come up with some uh, basic preliminary things. It would just take too long if we expand. But so one, if you're really concerned with this, minimize time on public places if possible. Of course, we have to do our groceries. Of course, we have to drop off the kids to sport. But let's not linger any further. Let's try to really minimize our loitering time. Let's do what we need to do our business in the shopping centers or any other crowded places, and finish our task as soon as possible and go home. Right? Uh, be aware of exits and possible escape routes if in crowded areas. So have an escape plan for you and those with you. So we, if you really, if you wanna do an exercise on this, is you probably like, I'm predictable. I go to the same grocery store to buy my groceries every week. So I can drive my car, park there, and walk to the grocery store with my eyes closed because it's a habit. It's a weekly habit. So I should be very familiar with the place, but I should now start to think, if something does happen while I'm in there, how do I get back to my car, or how do I exit? If that's not possible, how do I exit out of the building? If I'm with someone, how feasible is it to um, to go to that escape plan? Sometimes your escape plan might be just best for you, but you have to adjust it now. If you have to bring your family, a group of five, a group of four, you have young kids with you. So these things you have to start considering if you want to go through this exercise and adjust your actions accordingly to this raised level. Apply behavioral observation and suspicious activity recognition. So basically, be more alert. As you go through your daily routine, you probably see a lot more familiar faces because everyone in the same community go to the same place to get their groceries or to do whatever. You should be able to, at some capacity, be able to detect on who's the new person here, who's a stranger, who's this. I've never seen this guy before, or if someone's acting sus. So you have to be a little more alert and be able to detect that now, especially if you're with others, you're with your family, you're with your kids, loved ones. So the threat level was raised, then maybe for us, our alert level should be raised as well. Be gray, which means avoiding public expressions of your political or social issue views, external signs outside your home, social media posting, and conversations others can hear. Of course, this is absolutely your choice, right? This is just sort of, if you want to take this seriously and act appropriate to it, then you can try these. At the very least, it's a good exercise for us practitioners to sort of have that more sort of situational awareness about us. Um, but you have to consider information leaks in your actions and routines. So Because right now it's hard to tell. You may have a neighbor, you don't know their actual views, where they stand, and if you so happen to be very vocal and very open to your stance, and it might be against theirs. And this is more on the, you can call it on the paranoid side of things, but then they can go, oh, my neighbor is pro this and pro that, and someone else hears it. You can just never tell who out there has those radical views and might take action, right? Social media, you post something and then you are declaring this absolute position or view that you have, which of course people will know and might take action for it. And depends on the settings of your social media if you're public too. There's you can't underestimate how there are that's why it's called radical and extremist. So although likelihood, depending on the neighborhood, right? A lot of people live in a good neighborhood. It's very unlikely, but these are actual, objectively speaking, these are things to consider. These are information leaks. Um, uh, this is probably more in other countries, but planting different flags in your front yard or some signs and posters with a message out there in the public that's just by your front lawn, that also sort of exposes you. And it can, basically what I'm saying is, yes, we have the freedom of speech and freedom of our opinions. We're all entitled to our opinions and everything. But at the moment when you kind of have to start weighing that with your security, with your family security. Something like that, all those outspoken displays of your political views or social issue views, do make you a target because the sign is out there showing, seen by the public. So you are expressing your freedom of speech, but you're also making yourself a beacon of sorts, right? Everyone else is quiet in the forest, and you're the one that lights up a torch. Of course, you'll be the one seen. So that's something you can consider to be considered as well. If you want to look at this thing in a self-defense point of view, there's that aspect of being safe and hidden through obscurity. So be gray and not bring attention to yourself. That's one of the things. And you can also physically do that as you go around crowded places as well. All right. So those are some basic things if you want to go through this exercise of adjusting and putting in some safety checks or safety amendments to increase safety in your routines and day-to-day activities. To learn more Krav Maga self-defense techniques, train with us at kravmaga selfdefense.com.au.